Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Benjamin Dixon from the Benjamin Dixon Show, and I wanted to discuss this controversy, the controversy that's surrounding Judge Olu Stevens. And if you haven't heard about it, Judge Olu Stevens is a black judge who was offended by the statement of a victim, the victim statement, and he expressed his disgust and discontent, his dissent actually, with their statement that was being entered into the official court record. And so let me just play a clip of what happened, what he said, and then we'll discuss it.
Kamal's objecting to probation, right?
We are, Your Honor.
Okay. There's a victim impact statement here that bothers me, to be honest with you.
Yes, sir.
It really troubles me. And I just have to read it in paragraph 6. I assume the victims in this case are white.
Yes.
She's in constant fear of black men. When out running errands, if we come across a black male, she holds me tight and begs me to leave. Really? You don't have to answer for it, but I want to make that part of the record. I'm offended by that. I wonder if the perpetrator had been white, would they be in fear of white men? The answer would probably be no.
I understand the court's outrage there. Well, I mean, I guess I really don't, but...
Well, you understand.
I understand where you're coming from, Your Honor.
You understand exactly where I'm coming from.
Okay, so there's a lot of controversy surrounding this for many reasons. First, the fact that he spoke out against a victim statement, which a lot of people are saying is highly unusual, which I imagine it is unusual. That's one. Two, the fact that he spoke out against and he believes that the statement was racist. That's caused all kinds of controversy. Of course, you can't call out racism in America without being called a racist yourself, as if that makes any kind of logical sense at all. But the third reason is there's a lot of controversy because he gave the gentleman in I think his name is Wallace, last name is Wallace, they gave him probation instead of what the state was seeking, which was 20 years imprisonment for armed robbery. And so a lot of people have expressed that this judge is racist and that he has given a special benefit and a special privilege to this black guy because of his skin color. People have gone so far as saying that he needs to be impeached, that he needs to step down, that he needs to be removed, arrested, and some even have threatened him. Death threats have come into his office, the usual whenever we're dealing with race issues. So I wanted to address it because it is I think it's a complicated issue. I think it's complicated, and I think it requires multi levels of analysis. And you have to be able to put yourself in the shoes of someone else. And so if I'm going to give this a fair treatment, I have to be honest and tell you guys that if I put myself in the shoes of the victims, of the family, and I think about what I would do and how I would feel if someone broke into my home, I don't care if they're black, white, Indian, Asian, Island Pacific, I don't care who they are. Hell, Santa Claus can get it. If people break into my home, I'm going to do everything in my power to end their existence. I'm going to, if it is in my power at that moment while they are breaking into my home to kill them, I will kill them because my home is my sanctuary. I don't apologize for it whatsoever. My home is my sanctuary. My home is a place that I protect. I protect it from people on the outside, and I protect it from within. I protect it from myself. There are things that I don't allow in my home. Things that I just it's my domicile, and I can imagine. And I can empathize with this family. It doesn't matter what race they are; they're human beings, and so I understand the fear. I understand I understand some of the fear. I understand their anger. I understand their apprehension. I understand them wanting this young man to get the full punishment. This is why I'm grateful, because I'm grateful that our justice system, as flawed as it is, that at least it's not built on the rage and the anger and the righteous indignation of people who have been hurt. Or people who have been victimized. Because if it was, imagine what the legal system, the justice system would be like if it was like me. If it would do what I would do in the moment, because I would kill those boys, no questions asked. So I'm grateful that our justice system is not built on moments of rage. So that being said, I identify with this family, but I'm grateful that we have a justice system that is not going to simply look at the issue through the lens of the family. Now, at the same time, this is the complexity of this case. At the same time, I identify and sympathize with this family. I am equally as offended by their words as the judge was. Their words really are indicative of systemic. I mean, it is the archetype example of systemic racism in the United States of America. To offer into the official record of court proceedings a fear, an unbased, an unreasonable fear of all black men and all black people because of the actions of two, is just the case example of what racism has done in America. In that, this type of fear, this unwarranted fear of all things black, has led to black people being racially profiled on a regular basis. It's led to stop and frisk. It's led to black people getting 20% longer convictions, not convictions, but sentences than any other race, because of the fear of blackness. And it's also led to wrongful convictions. We see case after case after case where convictions are overturned 30 years later, 15, 20, 30 years later, spending their life in jail only to find out that they were wrongfully committed. This is all based on this unreasonable fear that it has been allowed to fester in the United States of America. In other words, what America does is look at all black people through the lens of the worst of us. And they never look at us through the lens of the best of us. So if I were to, for example, convict and condemn all white people because of the actions of some white people, for instance, let's say slavery. If I were to condemn all white people because of slavery, I would be called a racist, right? I would be called a bigot. I would be called unreasonable. If I did it, I don't even have to go back that far. If I could just talk about the racism that is present that was present during Jim Crow, all of the lynchings, if I bring that up, if I even mention it, I'm a racist. But if I have a fear of white people and I express that fear and want that fear to be a part of the conviction process, the sentencing process, then I would most certainly be called a racist. So how is it that you can look at this statement by this family, even though they were victims, even though we can sympathize with them? How is it that you can look at this statement and not see the offense and not see the underlying racism? Racism isn't always using the N-word. You have to understand that if you want to be intentionally obtuse and you want to whitewash and water down the definition of racism, then fine, racism is the N-word. But for people with functioning digits in their brain, they realize that racism is not just the expression of words, but it is also the actions that are used to unbiasedly, it is also the actions that are used to systemically target people. And so this lady had both. This victim statement had both words, and it was seeking to have the impact of law on the conviction of this young man, on the sentencing of this young man. And so how can you, if you can see racism in me being fearful of white people because of all the things they've done, how can you not see racism in this white family saying that they are fearful of all black people because of the things that two black people did? And then what else is absurd about this is the fact that people simply expected this black judge who is highly accomplished, who has done more in his lifetime than most Americans in general will do. He's gone through law school. He has been an attorney, and now he's a sitting judge. And now you expect him to read this into the official record of the court on his watch without saying anything about it. See, if I'm able to put myself in the shoes of this family, you should be able to put yourselves in the shoes of this judge. Why should this judge have to utter words out of his mouth that convict him, that condemn him simply because of the color of his skin? He shouldn't. And your expectation that he should have just read it and said nothing about it is not only absurd, but it is indicative of your privilege. There is so much white privilege that runs through this issue, because if you think about it, white people don't have to fear getting sentences that are 20% longer simply because of their skin color. They don't have to be afraid of going into a courtroom and having the jury be fearful of them because of their skin color. They don't have to be afraid of stop and frisk because it's not going to hit their communities. They don't have to be afraid of racial profiling. And so there's a litany of things that white people don't have to even consider in this issue. And then the fact that you expect this judge to operate as if you would, because you don't see anything wrong with it. You don't expect this black judge to see anything wrong with it, even though it is clearly, without question, offensive. And so it is possible to be both sympathetic with this family and empathize with this family and still be offended by their words. All right. Last but not least, the question of the legality of what he did and all, the sentence, a lot of people are acting like this black guy got some special treatment because he has been given probation. When the fact of the matter is, a simple Google search would reveal to you that there are a litany of cases across the country of first-time offenders committing armed robbery and getting probation. This is nothing new. This is not without precedent. You may be offended because the judge had the nerve to wrap it in a social justice statement, a statement against racism, and so your racism alarm went off, and you're terrified because now you're thinking that this judge is giving this black guy some special privilege, when in actuality he is simply giving this young man the same type of sentence that many people who have convicted the same exact crime and have not been previous offenders have been given. And so the question is, are you really afraid that this guy got some special privilege, or are you afraid of what the justice system really looks like if it treated black people the same way it treated white people? It's a complicated issue in the sense of it requires people to put themselves in the shoes of someone else, of more than one person. And most of the time, as Americans and as human beings, we find it difficult to put ourselves in the shoes of anyone else, let alone two different people in an institution. We need to put ourselves in the shoe, in the place of the family, and understand how this family would want the harshest sentence, and rightfully so. I would want more than that. I would probably, you already know what I would do. Right. So I understand I identify with the family, but I also identify with the judge as a black man. And I encourage people. I mean, this might just fall on deaf ears, but if you are a reasonable person and you want to understand the perspective of other people, then put yourself in the shoes of a black judge being forced to read into the official record of his court statements that condemn him simply because of the color of his skin. And then put yourself in the shoes of the legal system, because this is not without precedent. The legal system has set precedent where young people, or whatever their age is, are given probation because of it was their first offense. Now, here's a question that I want to ask. Is no one even going to ask why the prosecutor, was seeking the highest sentence possible, when there are plenty of examples where it's not only the defense and not only the judge who is seeking probation, but the prosecuting attorney, the prosecutor's office, is also seeking probation instead of the full force? Why did they go after this guy with the full force of 20 years when there's plenty of examples where they've gotten lesser of a sentence? So you have a lot of things wrapped up in here. You have a hurting family, and you have a hurting family who says and expresses something that they may not have been aware of, but it was indicative. It was the archetype example of systemic racism that we see in our so-called justice system on a regular basis. It happens to black people every day, and then the judge, a black judge who was reading the statement, was being condemned by the words he was having to read. You put yourself in his shoes, and do you expect him to not say anything? That's completely unreasonable. And then put yourself in the shoes of the legal system, because here's a young man who because of the statements of his community and his family, seems to be the type of young man who can be rehabilitated without having to go to prison. And so it is not without precedent. Last but not least, and I'm done, to the young man, there are a lot of people who are waiting for you to mess up. There are a lot of people who are waiting for you to prove them right and to prove their fear of blackness correct. Unfortunately, in the black community, we carry the burden of the entire black community. What one person does becomes imbued on all black people, as precisely demonstrated by the victim statement. So to you, young man, I say prove them wrong. Not just for your sake, but for the sake of, and unfairly so, this is not fair what I'm asking you, but it is what it is. But for the sake of all things black, for all black people, I challenge you to do something with your life that will make them shut the hell up. Hey, thanks for watching this video, everyone. If you liked it, be sure to click the like button, subscribe, and make sure you share it with all of your friends. If you like what we're doing at The Benjamin Dixon Show and think more people should hear it, consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/TheBPD Show, and we'll see you next time.